Rajiv Chandrasekhar.
Thank you for letting me speak on the working of the Ministry of Telecom and Information Technology, sir.
10 minutes, eh?
I'll take 10 plus 5, sir.
No, not 10 plus 5.
Negotiating. So I'll restrict my discussion to the telecom sector in India, sir, because that is an area with which I have a little bit of experience and exposure. So India has the third largest telecom network in the world, with over 273 million connections. The gross revenues for the sector are about 1,30,000 crores, which account for about 3% of the nominal GDP of the country. And most importantly, the rapid growth of the telecom network has resulted in an overall tele-density of over 33%. The opening of the telecom network has also led to large inflows of investments in an economy that has been investment-led. But sir, the successes of telecom sector over the last decade do not hide the fact that there are major dysfunctionalities that have crept into the sector over the last few years in particular. Most of us are aware of the controversies and questions raised about issues like spectrum allocation, mobile licensing, service provider distinction, international illegal calls that have been raised in Parliament and outside many, many times over the past few years. So to start with, I urge the Minister and the Ministry to establish a fresh, open, credible and transparent approach by the Ministry this year and going to the next 4 years, sir. I would strongly recommend that for the first time a clear set of outcomes be defined, if necessary, with a new telecom policy that supersedes NTP 99. 10 years on, there is a strong argument for a new telecom policy that reviews the sector and lays out the new targets and addresses the dysfunctionalities that have crept in over the last decade. So let me make a few suggestions for the telecom minister and the ministry going forward, sir. First is the issue of sustained affordability. Sir, it is a widely known fact that there is considerable price and other forms of cartelization widely prevalent in the telecom sector. Both the regulator and the department have failed completely in the task of creating true competition in the sector. This is an important issue that needs to be addressed and fixed. Indeed, I had the misfortune of listening to one regulator referring to cartelization as cooperative pricing. So the fundamental obligation of the government must be to ensure a framework of sustained consumer benefit. The only way to ensure this is to ensure intense and sustainable competition in the sector by ways of various technologies and service providers. This must be kept in mind. And I am glad that the Minister has agreed to introducing multiple 3G licenses through auctions that will increase competition in the sector. But if he is genuinely serious about competition, then he cannot leave unattended the critical issue of VoIP recommendations by the regulator that are lying gathering dust in the DoT. Implementing VoIP is the best way to ensure reduction in prices and allowing a totally new category of inexpensive voice services, especially for rural and poor sections of society. The reasons for inaction of introducing VoIP seems to be at the behest of some lobby or the other, and public policy making cannot be and should not be directed by these lobbies. It will be difficult for him to justify why commercial interests of some of the richest companies in the country will come in the way of implementing a policy decision that is universally known to reduce tariffs and specially benefit the rural folk. Second is, sir, the issue of quality. This has been discussed by some of my other colleagues. While we celebrate the significant progress in tele-density in our country, sir, and attribute it as a success of policy as we should, the significant gap in this is the issue of customer quality and the quality of the network. This is an area where our service providers, both the public and private, have neither paid enough attention nor has the government. For too long, service providers, both private and public, have been allowed to escape from being accountable for this and not making the capacity investments required for it. I have heard many times the reason being trotted out as spectrum shortage. That is clearly a solution, that is to save operators from investing in additional capital expenditure. So this is a serious issue and indeed one of the blights on the otherwise bright picture of Indian telecom. I would request that the department and the ministry make this an area of focus and ensure that operators make the investments at a set down threshold of service and network quality, and the regulator conduct quarterly and half-yearly audits with severe penalties for those who fail the standards of quality. So third is the issue of choice. Sir, as you know, currently once a customer gets his telephone number, he is stuck with that operator, good or bad, and can only migrate by changing his number. The need to surrender his number and move to a new number is a significant exit barrier for the customer and an incentive for the operator to provide substandard service. The decision of the government of telecom number portability will change the center of gravity from the operator to the consumer. I would urge the department to ensure that the implementation of this is expedited and launched this year itself. Sir, if the department and the government is serious about creating a public policy framework that places the citizen and the customer at the center of its policy making, these three issues of delivering competition, choice and quality are critical and non-negotiable. Implementing these three will truly place the consumer at the heart of government policy making. So fourth is the issue of serving rural India. Successive governments have accepted that this is a sector that has performed well, but for the rural India, which has been an area of serious challenge. Even today, sir, while 3 out of every 4 urban Indians have access to telephony, in rural India the number drops to 1 out of 10. This digital divide is having a serious multiplier effect in holding back socio-economic growth, especially since we all know 70% of India still lives in the rural heartland. Lack of connectivity and affordable options are both major deterrents for rural India to catch up with the progress that you see in urban and semi-urban India. I would urge a focused strategy of incentives and SOPs to accelerate investments into rural markets, combined with a more aggressive use of the USO fund, with a target for rural density, which is 3 out of 10 by the end of these 5 years, sir. So fifth and the most important issue is this issue of institutional and regulatory performance. Sir, as someone who has intimately lived the highs and lows of the telecom sector from the day it was first opened up to competition, I must say, sir, one of the biggest disappointments around the sector is its continued ambiguity on what should be a relatively straightforward process of auctioning spectrum. To avoid any further controversies and allegations of bias, it is important that all future allocations of spectrum for existing licensees and new licensees should be only through auctions, and these controversies should be put to rest. I have written to the Minister earlier on this issue, and he has assured me that this will be the case. I look forward to his confirmation of this during this debate, sir. So while the TRAI Act was enacted in 1997 and amended in 1998 by Parliament, it was done to assure an era of transparency and accountability. Sadly, the performance of the TRAI has been patchy and highly inconsistent, and dare I say, sir, sometimes very questionable. I believe it is time for a complete review of the TRAI Act and associated government policies. Unfortunately, the TRAI Act amendment in the last session was rushed through without a debate, and that would have been a good opportunity for a discussion on the TRAI Act amendment, sir. Let me quickly lay out some points on the TRAI Act amendment, sir. There is a greater need for the TRAI to enhance its accountability. Currently, the TRAI seems to be accountable to no one. There is no structure through which the TRAI can be held accountable to Parliament. The TRAI reports to Parliament through MOCIT, but is usually in conflict with the Ministry because its recommendations are either rejected, modified, or plain simple delayed. A TRAI that is subservient to the Ministry and often staffed by retired bureaucrats from the Ministry is clearly losing its sense of independent objectivity. Sir, some colleagues of mine have mentioned this point, but I need to repeat it. The government seems to cherry-pick sections of the TRAI recommendations or interpret them differently or partly implement them, depending on its convenience and comfort. In doing so, it is refusing to recognize the interlinkages between a comprehensive set of recommendations and may accept recommendations in part which do not meet the policy objectives of transparency test that is necessary for the functioning of the telecom sector and its policy making. For example, sir, it accepts TRAI's recommendations for distribution of spectrum but refuses to accept the process through which market value needs to be determined. This has been the problem which led to a major confusion in the last spectrum allocation process. Checks and balances need to be built in the system wherein TRAI recommendations are either accepted or rejected in totality, or if modified in part, then that with the consent of the TRAI rather than cherry picking. So there is no time limit, on the other point, second point, so there is no time limit with regards to how long the government can wait or delay implementing TRAI's recommendation. When the government finds it appropriate, it implements recommendations within weeks. In other cases, recommendations have been pending for 2 to 3 years. It is necessary that the Ministry and the DOT self-regulate themselves. or eclipse themselves under some sort of legislative amendment where they need to respond within a given period of time, say 60 days, to a TRI recommendation by either accepting, rejecting, or returning it to the TRI with modifications. This will ensure that policy making is timely, decisions are not caught up in bureaucratic delays, and most importantly, this will ensure transparency on DOT's response to TRI recommendations, sir. So, one quick word about TEC, sir. The TEC needs to seriously upgrade its technical capabilities to ensure that they are in keeping with the latest state-of-the-art technological developments in the telecom business. I think that's an important area. I'm just finishing, sir. So, the telecom sector is a great example of infrastructure development with little or no investments by the government. These policy moves, coupled with the significant headroom for growth, will make India the most vibrant and exciting telecom opportunity in the world for investors, sir. And I look forward to hearing the government's response to my suggestions, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay.